Can I beat an Infinite Colony plus 20 skip on manual gameplay? That's one of the things we will find out today. This is my current Infinite Colony level on my main account, which is on 6.3 million waves in the game. This makes it a ratio of around a little bit over 7, which is something I've been just trying to maintain for a small, nice bonus in my gold income lately. We will start by doing a plus 20 skip on Autobattle first, so we have something to compare my manual gameplay to. So this is my current Infinite Colony build on this account on 6.3 million waves in the game. And I will also go through all the treasures, all the skill points, and all the items on every single unit on this build after these runs, so stay tuned for those as well. Obviously showing how much damage each of these units do in an Infinite Colony plus 20 skip. And you can see this build is running, your basic idea of Infinite Colony build is like, you will have your support units doing crowd control, making sure that the enemy monsters, the ground monsters, are pushed back to the enemy castle, and while your other units, your damage dealers, can go there and kill stuff and eventually beat the colony for you. And another very extremely crucial thing about Infinite Colonies is your healing, because you are constantly taking damage from the enemy archers that you can see behind the enemy castle. And if you don't have enough healing and enough defense, you will just die to that, even if you can completely control the ground, like you see me controlling them over here. Like I'm taking a lot of damage every single second on this run. And the main things I'm using for healing is Smith. I'm relying on my Smith mostly for the healing. The Dark Elf is there also giving me healing, but Dark Elf is not that high level. You will see that later on. But mostly I'm relying on my Smith to heal me during this battle, and that means I want my Smith to be as low cooldown as possible for the build. There we go, that's a plus 20 done on Autobattle, so let's cancel this one. And the battle results for this one looks like this. The Giants are the #1 things in here as well, the MVPs of this game, and these are the rest of the units doing a little bit of damage. Some of them are here not to do any kind of damage. For example, everything in here is not here to do any damage, really just to give me some more support. We will see the items after a little bit. And then the interesting part, can I do this on manual gameplay? Now I must say it's been very long time since I did a manual Infinite Colony run. Usually I just let it run on Autobattle, which is really convenient because that's available thing for this. But let's see, this shouldn't be too much of an issue, because actually since we have the +1 summoned unit for this build, I should not need to do anything else than just keep on healing with my Smith and clicking these other 5 dudes over here. And I can completely ignore my summons since they are there constantly. They will not die by time. They will not die by taking any damage. So I can just keep on, well, casting Pure Wizard every time he is available is extremely important. So that I can also lower the cooldown on my Smith, because like I said, I'm relying on my Smith a lot. I'm not actually even looking at the enemy castle. I'm not even looking at the HP bar or anything. I'm just casting these, well, essentially these 6 heroes every time they are off cooldown. I could time them more properly, but having things on 3x game speed is quite, well, hectic, quite scary. It gets, you get destroyed in moments in other game modes, so I'm kind of scared just do that. I can see the ground is getting maybe a little bit more loose than with the Autobattle, so there's a difference in there. Otherwise, our healing is fine, right? We are making progress. I see we are also making progress to the HP bar of the enemy castle, and slowly but steadily we should be able to win this one for sure. So I just keep on using these units, keep on using Smith every single time he is off cooldown, so that we don't fall off on too little HP. We do have healing altar in here that we can cast in emergencies, but if possible I would prefer not to use that, because that means I can still push my Infinite Colony levels a little bit further if I don't have to rely on the altar right now for this run. But this should be relatively easy. Easier than I thought. There we go. Infinite Colony plus 20 done on manual gameplay. Victory! And let's see how the results look for this one. So they are basically the same. That's a given. This was the Autobattle results, and this is the results on my manual plus 20 skip on the Infinite Colony build. And now what makes this build tick? So let's start with treasures and skill tree. My treasures are looking like this. Thornbow is here to boost your hero's critical chance. Power Claw is the strongest offensive treasures you can have, so try to include that in your builds if you need some more power. It's better than Sharp Arrow, it's better than Skull Ring. To use the Power Claw. Sharp Arrow would probably be the second one, but also you can see I'm using very defensive heavy treasures in here. I'm having HP, I'm having castle defense, and I'm having castle range defense. And the reason for this is because, like I said, I'm relying on my smith a lot for the healing. If I take red potion off, I could be able to like replace it with the Sharp Arrow. That would make my build a little bit stronger. It will also give my Dark Elf a little bit more healing because of the increased critical chance for my Dark Elf and also for my damage dealers. But I will just lose too much HP that my smith can't keep up with the healing anymore. So I have to keep that red potion in here. But if you are strong enough, you should try to include the Sharp Arrow probably in that place. And as for the skill tree, it's basically same-ish than the skill tree on wave build. There's small differences. Let's take a look at those. I will scroll through this first like this. So small differences to my wave build is that, well, on the physical tree, there are the nodes for Dark Elf over here, which I don't have in my wave build because I don't use Dark Elf in my wave build. Also this +1 arrow for all units, also here for the Dark Elf healing. So these will boost your Dark Elf's healing capabilities, but I don't use them in my Cold Autobattle build, so this is the difference in there. There's the fire tree with the sword node. The only reason these fire nodes are here is to take the sword node, which will boost your damage greatly. And in the lightning tree, we have a little bit less lightning nodes in here because there's not a lot of lightning damage dealers. Obviously, we don't also have the more damage to flying monsters because there's no flying monsters in Infinite Colony. So small things that are missing compared to the waving build. Eventually, maybe if I have more points, I will probably take these lightning things to boost my assassin damage a little bit, but assassin is not doing that much damage in the Infinite Colony, so it's not that important. In the summon tree, the difference is, well, we have witches in here, so we have this node over here that will give us more damage if we have witches in the build. We have 2 witches in there, so that's a 10% increase for our build. That will help our giants, for example, deal more damage. And also, same reason is this druid node over here. And the reason also why we have druid in the build is that we can increase summoned unit damage per end. Again, our giants will become stronger by that. Also, druid will give us more castle defense, so that's also a thing that's going on for the druid. And we have the summon only once nodes in here that I don't have in my waving build, so that's obviously a difference. And one of the major differences probably is that I'm skipping through the ice tree to poison tree in here, so that I can get this sword node over here and the other nodes over here. And the reason this is just fine because, well, we are getting less damage for poison and ice type heroes, but we have absolutely no one of those types that's meant to be doing any kind of damage for this build, so that's fine. We are fine with losing that kind of damage in this build. And also we are getting decreased bonus gold by 15%, but again, in Infinite Colony build we don't have to care about getting bonus gold from the enemies compared to like gold build where you absolutely want as much gold as you can, so that's fine. We can take this hit and skip over to the poison tree through the ice tree in here. And finally, let's go through all the items for this build. My face keeps hopping all over the screen today. Let's start from the 13 hero slot. In here we have Blue Defender, who doesn't need any items, so he just have both items that have a line of cooldown skill level +1. None of the other lines matter for Blue Defender. That's an easy hero to equip with your cooldown skill level +1 lines. For Necromancer as well, we have cooldown skill level +1 line items with a little bit of cooldown as well, but cooldown skill level +1 lines in here. And for Pure Wizard, we want cooldown, as much cooldown as we can get. So these are the same items, obviously, that I'm using also in my waving build, because you want your Pure Wizard to be as low cooldown as possible for your every unit, especially for Smith as well, to reduce the cooldown of him for this build. And for the Dark Bowmaster, I have the same items as for my waving build. I'm still trying to get a better bow for him, and cooldown skill level +1 again in here. Running the critical orb for some extra critical damage, same as for my waving build. Then for Alice we have cooldown skill level +1 items. Wow, what a shock! With some stun, with some attack speed to help with the ground control. Probably would be just fine even without the stun lines in here, but the cooldown skill level +1s help. And again, because we have Alice in here, we will get some increased damage because she is a witch. And for Smith, we don't have cooldown skill level +1 lines, we have percentual cooldown lines for both items, so double cooldown items for both of these. And also the damage skill level +1 helps a little bit, giving us a little bit more damage all across the board, and that's always a fine thing, that's a bonus. I will happily take that. For Dorothy, we have another cooldown skill level +1 line with some attack speed, with some stun in here, and also, well, there's a lot of stun and attack speed in here. I would eventually want to replace this with a cooldown skill level +1 item as well for this build, but that's a lot of crowd control for this build for now. Bishop has wow, I would never have thought the Bishop has cooldown skill level +1 lines. Also, you could use cooldown items for Smith, Bishop, sorry, but these are here to again lower the overall cooldown of my build, and since I have a low pure wizard, my Bishop will also be cast quite often. No, that's fine. That is completely fine. One thing you could get is like skill duration runes for Bishop, but I haven't been patient enough to farm those for this hero just yet. And for the Hawk Druid, I have a staff with +1 summoned unit and damage skill, because I don't have a staff with +1 summoned unit and cooldown skill level +1 line yet. Maybe I will get it before 7 million waves, who knows. But the reason we have +1 summoned unit on both of these items, these also have a cooldown skill level +1 line, is because we will get 2 extra ends, and we will get 5% extra defense per end we have, so that's 2 extra ends at 10% extra defense. And also from the summon skill tree we have the druid node, which means we will get 10% summon unit damage per end, so that's 2 extra ends, that's 20% increased summon unit damage. Now you could use the wolf druid as well, it won't really make a difference. I'm having the cursed orb in here to decrease the enemy's defense a little bit. None of the other orbs really do anything for the druid, so that's just a fine option in there. For the Dark Elf, we have critical chance, critical damage, +1 arrow. That's a beautiful item. It could be buffed with some runes. Haven't been seeing the need to farm those yet. Maybe I will, maybe I won't ever do that. And this is a critical damage, +1 arrow, and cooldown skill level +1. This is a really beautiful item for my Dark Elf. Again, it could use some runes as well, so there's room for improvement in the build also. And I'm using the Orb of Luck in here to boost the critical chance for my Dark Elf, so that she can land more critical hits, which will enable her to heal me more. And for Dark Assassin, cooldown skill level +1. Otherwise, not the best lines in here. Attack speed kinda helps a little bit. I use this for my Taunaza Helmode build, so I'm using the same sword in here. It's a different sword than what I use for my Waving build. But this is the same accessory that I used for my Waving build as well. Hence the bonus gold runes over there, they are used as in Infinite Colony, but cooldown skill level +1 line as well in here. And just the lightning orb to give a little bit attack speed. Don't think this will make a huge difference, but why not? Because the luck orb is on my Dark Elf compared to Wave build, where Assassin uses the luck orb, so I have a lot for something else in there. Then the main damage dealer, our mad giants, and this beautiful, beautiful, absolute beast of an item with double critical chance, +1 summoned unit item quality line that boosts these normal values up by 23%, so these yellow lines are the actual values of this item. And added some attack speed runes over here for some extra attack speed, keep making them more and more stronger. And also in here, same thing, attack speed runes, damage lines, +1 summoned unit, and cooldown skill level +1 line. And the same orb as for my Waving build, so physical orb in here. Slingers have the same items as in my Waving build. Stun, slow, attack speed, and some stun, attack speed, +1 summoned unit, cooldown skill level +1 line, and attack speed runes as well, and more attack speed from the Orb of Agility. Slingers are my #1 crowd control unit for Infinite Colony build especially. I will jump over to the skill tree really fast. When you get this skill node over here, that will give your slingers piercing, because that will make them so freaking awesome for, well, every single game mode where you can get the piercing node for slingers. And finally, Edward has +1 summoned unit, cooldown skill level +1 sword, and also a cooldown skill level accessory as well. these are the same items I use also for my waving build for Edward, because Edward also deals quite nice damage for the Infinite Colony. My Town Cannon and Town Lightning Cannon have the same items as in my waving build, so they have cooldown skill level +1 items in here. Otherwise, they are just slaving some orbs that I haven't put on any other unit in the build. And also I'm using some orbs for the towers as well. Defensive barracks is doing absolutely nothing for the build, except holding one of the orbs, and also one orb on my death form in here as well. And for the castle paths, the important things here are the sealed castle for increased castle defense, and also the physics, the stone castle, the physics base, to increase our physical units attack by +15%. These two in here, the frozen castle and the poison castle, are here just to give poison and slow debuffs for the enemy monsters. They are not here to do any kind of damage, they are just a small thing to boost me. If you are in early game, they won't really benefit you in that way, so you can skip them. But you can just, as long as you have the sealed castle and the physics base, you will be just fine.